We've got just 7 hours to go before the polls open here in Indiana for Election Day. And tonight, we're monitoring the weather impact as Hoosiers get ready to cast their ballots tomorrow. Thanks for inviting us in. It's 11 o'clock. Angela's tracking this for us. So what's the weather going to be like for people who go out and vote tomorrow?
Best advice, take the umbrella.
Okay.
You're not going to need it all day. There will be a few showers around when the polls open at 6 a.m. with some of the heaviest rain arriving toward when the polls close. We'll have an early look at the timeline for you in just a second. Just want to make sure you're aware of the weather impact during the day tomorrow. Gusty winds 35 miles per hour plus, warm too in the 70s, and heavy rainfall possible later in the day. So if you are in a line, just be prepared. You may be standing in the rain. Speaking of rain, we still have rain on radar. Lafayette north and west. This will continue to lift north over the next couple of hours. Lots of clouds overnight, and when the polls open, a shower or two possible with the heavier rain arriving late in the day. I'm going to continue the timeline in a few minutes.
Angela, thanks so much. And you can monitor these Election Day rain chances with our WTHR weather app. Be sure to check out our interactive radar and the weather blog before you head to the polls tomorrow. Want to remind you it's a free download. You can get it in the App Store. So early voting wrapped up at noon today. More than 1.5 million voters here in Indiana have cast a ballot so far. So if you still need to vote, our Logan Gay tonight shares everything you need to know before heading to the polling site.
Hoosiers waited in line for hours on Monday to cast their ballots on the last day of early voting.
It's really good that young people are taking notice. They're coming with their parents and they're voting. And that's really good that they see that it's necessary for them to do so.
Tuesday's turnout could be even larger.
In Marion County, the voters, they got opinions.
That's why county officials are reminding voters to make sure they bring everything they need with them to the polls to help make the process go smoothly. Starting with your ID. Indiana state law requires voters to present a government-issued photo ID when casting a ballot. If you don't have a valid ID, you may still cast a provisional ballot, but the Marion County Clerk says there are some extra steps involved.
But then they have to come to us within 10 days to prove that they have that ID and had it, just left it at home. So you're going to slow your process down and every other voter's process down if you don't bring your ID.
You can go on the vote.indy.gov website where you can take a look at your sample ballot and find which of the 186 vote centers are nearest to you. Voting centers will be open from 6 a.m. until 6 p.m. Any voter who is still in line at 6 p.m. will still be able to vote. And if you're voting with an absentee ballot, your ballot must be received by the election board before 6 p.m. on Election Day. To make sure you get there on time, you may also hand deliver it to the city county building or to a vote center before the polls close.
Election season is so exciting because people are getting their say.
The Marion County Director of Elections, Patrick Becker, says they're ready to open and start counting those ballots on Election Day.
All absentee ballots, everything that is voted before Election Day, it gets reviewed by our team, it gets audited, and it gets recorded into the statewide voter registration database. And then those ballots, once they've gone through that process, that's what we're going to be opening on Election Day. Right out here on these floors, and we're going to be opening those ballots, taking them out, and run them through tabulators.
Then once you've done your parts, it's a waiting game for the results. Energy's
high, turnout is trending towards a high turnout. What that means for us on Election Day is a lot of work here to count absentee ballots. So we're expecting that to take potentially more than one day, which means we may not be finished counting at 11 or 12 on election night.
So they just ask everyone to be patient. In Indianapolis, Logan Gay, 13 News.
And we've got you covered on Election Day. We'll be live throughout the day and night with crews at polling locations, party headquarters, and here in studio tomorrow night, breaking down all the numbers for you. You can go to WTHR.com/elections to find the results as they begin coming in. Again, the polls are open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And now to the Delphi murders trial, the case aimed at finding out what happened in the woods of Carroll County back in February of 2017. How did those two teen girls end up dead? Now the man charged with killing Abby Williams and Libby German is on trial. And the jurors are finding out what happened in prison after Richard Allen was arrested. Our Samantha Johnson is in Delphi tonight and breaks down some disturbing video played in court today and conflicting testimony the jurors now have to analyze.
We heard crucial testimony for the defense inside the Carroll County Courthouse on Monday. We heard more about Richard Allen's mental state while he's been in prison, as well as first-hand accounts from his family here in Delphi. First to take the stand Monday, a neuropsychologist, Dr. Polly Westcott, who says she met with Allen in prison to do a series of psychological exams. And after reviewing those exams, prison videos, phone calls, and medical reports, she determined Allen suffered from major depressive disorder and psychosis when he confessed to killing the girls. She also determined he wasn't faking or exaggerating his mental health, and that contradicts the most damaging evidence against Allen so far, his recorded phone call confessions to killing Abby Williams and Libby German in February of 2017. On Monday, videos played just for the jury of Allen inside his prison cell, eating his own feces and banging his head against the wall. The defense trying to prove Allen's mental health was deteriorating and driving him to make those false confessions. The state claiming the videos were used to get sympathy from the jury. Afternoon testimony started with two of Richard Allen's relatives, his sister in the orange and his daughter in the gray. This comes after Allen allegedly admitted to sexually assaulting family members. So the defense asked both his sister and daughter directly, "Did Richard Allen ever molest you?" To which they both responded, "No." Our final witness of the day on Monday was a man who lives right next to the crime scene. His name is Brad Weber. Allen's attorneys got him to admit in court that he basically told two different stories to police in the days following the girls' murders about whether or not he drove straight home after work on February 13th, 2017. That's important because if he did, that would put his white van at his house near the Monon High Bridge around the time the girls went missing. And that would match one of Allen's confessions from prison that a van scared him at the crime scene that day. So testimony wrapped up around 3:30 Monday afternoon. We will be back inside the courtroom on Tuesday, even though it's election day. That's because the judge in this case is adamant that things will wrap up on time. I'll be there. I'll have live updates for you throughout the day at WTHR.com. In Delphi, Samantha Johnson, 13 News.
So throughout the last few days, we've really gotten to know more details about the defense's arguments in this big case, especially when it comes to Richard Allen's alleged confessions in prison. Tonight, our Lauren Kostick joins us with insight from our legal analyst and this conflicting testimony the jury tonight is now weighing. Lauren?
Well, Scott, very soon that jury will be instructed to deliberate and come up with a verdict, and the defense gave them a lot to think about today. As Samantha pointed out, perhaps the most important witness to take the stand for the defense today was Dr. Polly Westcott. Her testimony undercutting statements from the state and its witnesses regarding Allen's mental state in those alleged confessions while in prison. And it will be the jury's responsibility to decide what to believe or not to believe.
This is a scenario where they have to put that to the test because they now have completely conflicting testimony, and they're going to have to judge the credibility of the state's expert on these particular facts versus the defense's expert. So this is a big point in this trial.
So a tough job for this jury, but as Katie Jackson Lindsay says, these jurors have gotten a lot of instruction about how to handle this job. And she says that's evident based on the number of questions they've been asking throughout this big trial.
The case of two IMPD officers charged in the death of a man in police custody is now going to trial. A judge just denied a motion to dismiss those charges. The parents of Herman Whitfield III called for mental health assistance back in April of 2022. Body cam footage shows officers using a taser on Whitfield twice, then restraining him face down in handcuffs on the floor. That's where Whitfield died. A grand jury indicted officers Steven Sanchez and Adam Ahmad for involuntary manslaughter, reckless homicide, and battery. And then today, in a closed hearing, the judge ruled this case would move forward.
Mr. and Mrs. Whitfield, is this a bit of a relief today?
I'm glad that the trial can proceed on the merits. We'll see what happens.
Looking forward to obtaining justice.
Yes, justice is flowing, and hopefully it flows in the right direction.
Jury selection now scheduled for November 26th. This trial is set to begin December 2nd.